Have you ever sat down to edit and the bloody thing just refuses to come alive? We've got decent material, it's shot well, nothing is obviously wrong, but we cut it together with some appropriate music and it just feels flat. It doesn't jump off the timeline like we know it should. Where's the energy? Where's the pull to lure the audience in? There's no sense that anything interesting is actually happening. And if we don't care, why will the audience? So we start adjusting things, tightening cuts, trimming, trying different music, move a few shots around and maybe that'll work. It doesn't. It doesn't because the problem isn't in the raw footage. It's in what we've actually built. We've constructed something that isn't actually a scene. It's just a collection of shots. And there's a massive difference between the two. So in this episode of Edit Essays, I'm going to go through what that problem is, why it's not working, and show you a couple of scenes where it is. Now, when many new editors think about visual storytelling, they think in terms of beautiful individual shots. This shot looks good. This shot tells the story. This angle, adds variety. So they build their scenes by laying these images next to each other, hoping that meaning will somehow emerge from the collection. Shot, then shot, then shot, then shot. And, occasionally something works. But the problem is that there's no underlying engine driving the scene forward, no internal movement, no sense of progression. It's kind of like laying out individual photographs on a table and expecting them to come alive just because they're all individually beautiful and sat next to each other. But visual storytelling doesn't work like that. Audiences get bored of just seeing beautiful shots. A scene isn't made up of just images. It's made up of progression, change, and movement. Now, it's not movement in the sense of someone walking from here to there or a camera panning onto some object or person. I'm talking about narrative movement in terms of change. And this is where it gets really interesting. Something evolves, something shifts, something leads to something else. And, that only happens when we stop thinking in terms of isolated shots, no matter how beautiful they are. And we start thinking in terms of sequences. Inside every strong scene, there are small chains of action and reaction, little pockets where one thing leads to another, which leads to another. This happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens. Therefore is a big word for us in visual storytelling. Now, they might only last a few seconds, but they create direction and therefore they create the pull for the audience. And it's when we start linking enough of those together that we start building an addictive chain. Then scenes start to become hypnotic. Let's go a little deeper. Let's take a really simple visual example. Someone walks into a room. Now, a boring way to cut that would be with a wide shot, a shot of the person entering, maybe a cutaway or something in the room, then back again. Visually, it's fine, but emotionally, it's as dead as Julius Caesar. Now, imagine you build a small sequence inside that moment. The door handle turns, the door opens, the person steps in, they pause, they notice something, their expression shifts, they move towards it. Now each moment leads to the next. Now we have progression. Now we have something that feels like it's actually unfolding. And that's the big difference. Not better shots, better connections. Now, of course, we're limited by the depth and range of the raw footage, that we've been given. But if we start off with this question, what was the most interesting version of these shots cut together that creates a narrative chain? If we get that, we're in the right place. And this is where most new editors get stuck. I've seen it thousands of times with our students. They think the solution is to add another beautiful shot. Before we start cutting and shaping the timeline, doing all the fun stuff, we've got a whole selection process first. That's the stage that most people forget. We can only shape the footage that's been given to us, but we can only shape the shots that we've selected. And if that is, just based largely on beauty and aesthetic quality or great light or the best composition, yeah, all of that helps, but none of it fixes the underlying issue if the structure is static. We can have incredible footage that goes nowhere. We can have very simple footage that feels compelling because it's been shaped into sequences that create this narrative movement. So here's the rule. If your scene is mostly descriptive, it will feel flat. But if your scene contains progression, it will feel alive. Now, there's a distinction here that we should talk about, as it shows up everywhere in editing. Some images are illustrative. They show something. They describe something. They give context. A wide shot of a location, a close-up of an object, a reaction that reinforces a feeling. Now, of course, these are important, but they don't drive the scene. They support it. The real engine comes from the narrative progression within the chain of moments where something is unfolding across multiple images, where each one depends on the one before it. This is what we mean when we say editorial architecture. Now, that sounds like a ridiculously complicated term, but it really isn't. If we want the audience to care, we have to take them on a journey, and journeys are all about progression. So the question is, what is the progressive arc taking place in our editorial architecture? Now, once this clicked in my brain back when I started editing, storytelling actually became a lot easier for me, because instead of trying to force something out of a pile of well-shot material, I started looking for small chains of progress. Where does something begin? What changes over time? And what does that lead to? Now, we're not wrestling with the entire set of raw footage. We're building a scene piece by piece, a small mini sequence here, another one there, and then we connect them together. Suddenly, it's like, oh, this is working. So let me show you a couple of scenes and talk through that progressive chain. And what's interesting is that they both do it in two very different ways.
What we do in our group class, it is pretty much what the professional fighters, or the highest level, it's what they go through, right? So everybody will get a taste of that. There is no babying you, okay? You will do what everybody else is doing. If it's 100 knees, you will do 100 knees. 100 sit-ups, you will do 100 sit-ups. There is no shortcuts.
One, speed punch, let's go!
The pad rounds, what you're seeing now, the pad work, kicking the pads, that's the main part of the training.
Everything will be technical within the pad session. Once you're there to land big shots like elbows, knees, kicks. We want all power.
And the pads are thick, so you can use full power and like the pad absorbs it. Yep. And right now it's a lot of fighters. And when they have the fight camp, it's kind of like you focus less on technique because usually you've already kind of done that. And it's just smacking the pads like double kicks, 1-2 kick. Some combinations make more sense than others. And you kind of learn that. And at the end, we do the speed kicks, which is when you stand on one leg and you just kick like this. And that's just like nightmare fuel. It's so tiring, but it's so good for fighting. You start with 10 as a beginner, then you go up to 20, so fighters should do like 50 on each leg. You get so tired, it's awful. For me, when I fight, that's what makes like the most difference. Like I can just kick pads forever and like not get tired, which is the goal.
So in this pad scene, it was a combination of the B-roll and the observational actuality that was creating that sense of progress. The progressive setup as the fighters prepare, then specific calling out in the sync of the different fighting skills they were doing.
Once you're there to land big shots like elbows, knees, kicks, we want all power.
And the pads are thick, so you can use full power and like the pad absorbs it.
And then the appropriate images connected in and around those lines of dialogue. There was a clear intensity arc within the training, leading all the way to them being fatigued at the end. You know, what I could have done was just show a beautiful extended montage of all the training with the same level of stylization, but that would have got boring pretty quickly. Instead, I created a progressive arc with successive springboards from the dialogue into the next link in the chain. Okay, so now I want to show you something a little bit different, a second scene, but it is quite different.
If I was to say there's anything specific I'm looking for in a shot, it's good light. If I'm in a place where good light is falling on something interesting, I'll start taking pictures. I love light. I chase light. I wait for light. I anticipate light. I wonder about it. I'm always in tune to it. It's one of my greatest passions. It's hazy, but we finally got some sunlight, and it's gorgeous, and it feels good. My obsession with light must have come from my early childhood when I was 5, in the woods of Maine, running around in the forest, looking at, National Geographic magazine with my dad, talking about the photos. I was always kind of fascinated by reflections on the ground, on the walls. Reflection puzzles, as I call them. Where does that reflection come from? Why is it that color? Why is it that shape? What's its source? Look at the water. Look at that light on the water. It's amazing. Oh my God. In the morning, the light is at a very low angle, and its qualities are much different. Shape and form are much more dramatic. Oh, wow, that's really nice. But it's just as brilliant and intense. I don't think about rule of thirds or leading lines or symmetry or, I think about it as an artist, not a technician. What looks good? And the light leads me there, and just my know-how lets me achieve what I want to get out of the shot. Usually I don't really kind of have a set place to shoot. I just kind of like go around and follow the light. If the light's pretty, there's always something to shoot.
Okay, very different scene, stylized in a completely different way. Now, what you'll notice in this sequence is that there's not actually much progression in the pictures, but we still have progression. Why? It's because the interview dialogue is doing 90% of the heavy lifting. It's creating the progressive chain pretty much by itself. So we can see that narrative progress can be constructed by the dialogue or the pictures or both. By the way, if you want to see how each of these was actually edited as well as shot, you can go and check out our Scene Evolutions and Shoot for the Edit episodes. I'll stick the links below. So if this is the kind of high-end editorial look and feel that you want for your productions, whether you're working on docs, reality, entertainment, online content, if you're in-house, an agency or something, it doesn't matter. We've got something to help. Our Inside the Edit app. It's got exclusive masterclasses, training, and resources to help you become the high-end filmmaker you want to be. You can download it now on the App Store and Google Play. So we can see from these two completely different scenes that it's whether the scene has internal movement that creates that high-end feel. Isolated images, beautiful as they may be, or connected moments that actually lead somewhere. Anyone can line up shots on a timeline. You can learn that software in about 5 minutes. That's not difficult. Where the art is creating a sense that something is unfolding. That one moment is causing the next. That the scene is moving forward, even if nothing dramatic is happening on screen. The shift is simple, but it's not easy. You stop asking, what's the next shot? And you start asking, what does this moment lead into? What changes here? What develops? What's the next link in this chain? You start to feel the difference between a sequence that sits there and a sequence that pulls you through it. That's what I want for you and your films. That's what you need to start practicing, because that's where high-end visual storytelling really starts to happen. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Edit Essays. And of course, if you'd like to go deeper, the full course is available over at InsideTheEdit.com. As always, thank you for your kind attention, dear friend. My name's Paddy Bird, and this is Inside the Edit.